Hi, good evening, and welcome to this week's installment of the Minority Report. Again, let me say thank you for those of you who are already logged on, and I want to encourage you to get others involved in the program tonight. Let's share the link, get as many persons involved in this process, in this segment, as we continue to examine the facts, present the necessary information that is necessary and important to our development here in Tobago. If you are viewing this evening's program, you can look at it, and I think the most viewed platform is the Facebook page, the Tobago Updates Facebook page. But you can also view on the Tobago Updates website, as well as the Tobago Updates YouTube channel. And as we know, that has been added to the list of platforms, that is M&E TV. If you are interested in sending us your comments via WhatsApp, you can send that WhatsApp to 284-6597, 284-6597, and we also entertain calls on that particular number. However, an additional number, if one is busy, that you can call or contact us on the program on air, is 356-8833. That's 356-8833. And we are prepped for some interesting discussion this evening. We have a couple short interviews as well, just to keep us informed as to what is happening, what's taking place in Tobago. And I mean, we know we just came out of quite a hectic weekend, and for many, it may have even been a long weekend. And, you know, we want to just get some updates and some information as pertaining to what would have transpired and so forth. In terms of our program tonight, we have some very interesting topics where we're going to be looking, continuing this week as the third installment of what we themed The Great Deception. And in alignment with that, we're going to be providing you with quite a bit of information. We also know that, and I'm making it publicly known now, that this Thursday, tomorrow, there is going to be another sit-in of the House of Assembly, and our minority leader and minority council are going to be heading back into the Assembly to debate a particular motion that has been presented. And as we get into the program later on, we're also going to have some time to discuss that particular motion with them. So as we enter the program, we would have seen a slideshow which we started last week, presenting what we call a development story. Again, a number of persons have been in the public domain casting certain aspersions, making statements and a public nature, and making certain accusations, as it were. One of those is the fact that for 21 years, Tobago has not experienced any sort of development whatsoever. And for those who, as the Bible says, have eyes that can see, let them see. We intended to simply aid that process a bit, and so we would have seen in our intro development story, just a part of it, of what we would have seen take place in simply the health sector. This evening, we continue with another chapter of that development story as we get ready to present the development story as it pertains to what we would have experienced in the education sector in Tobago over the past couple of years. I'll ask the director to cue it up, and let's get into it so that our viewers can indeed benefit and participate in the development story. And I think if we are viewing and looking at these slides, I think many persons at this point in time, you're getting a feeling of nostalgia because you're actually seeing a lot of what would have been done over the last couple of years. And I mean, this is simply a drop in the bucket, as much of the information has not been provided in this slide. However, but as the theme suggests, it is a development story, and we know with a story, you normally get it in paragraphs and so on. And so we would have been able to see a first paragraph of our development in the health sector in Tobago, a number of things that we would have seen achieved and benefits to communities. And tonight we would have seen significant contributions made in the education sector as well. And so we will continue on this particular trend where we expose all of Tobago and remind all of Tobago of what we would have been able to see in terms of our development under successive PNM-led administrations. By no way is it that it is being said that all that could have been done was done, but it is significant to say that quite a lot was done, quite a lot would have been accomplished, and we will definitely spend some time providing Tobago with that evidence. And as you drive around, as you move around, you of yourself can also identify even some of the slides, some of the information on the slides. Many of us may not have known or may not have been aware of what would have taken place. This evening, we want to go right into our congratulations in our highlights segment. I want to, first of all, congratulate Sheridine Sylvester of Moriah, who wins the under-12 singles and doubles tennis title in Trinidad. And let me say this, we have been seeing over the last couple shows a number of Tobago's youth, and I mean from as young as 9, 10, 11, all the way up into teens, making significant achievements in not just Trinidad and Tobago, but even across the Caribbean in their different and respective sporting disciplines. And tonight, we want to once again hail sporting achievements. The 11-year-old Tobagonian wins the girls under-12 singles and doubles titles at the recently concluded Trinity Junior Cup tennis tournament in Trinidad. Sheridine Sylvester is from Moriah and attends Buku Government Primary School. She was in Barbados competing as well in the Powerade Barbados Junior Tennis Tournament. And we're seeing quite a bit of exposure as well coming to our young people in the different sporting disciplines, having the opportunity to travel. We would have seen recently the Ball Blasters Club from Bethel making a significant impact in the regional tournament in Barbados and cupping not just the tournament title, but a number of individual titles. And we would have looked at that last week. Even before that, we saw 4 of our young netballers, or 4 or 5 of our netballers representing Trinidad and Tobago as well in the Jean Pierre tournament. We also saw a number, 4 at least, of our Tobago young ladies representing Trinidad and Tobago on the national under-20 team that just missed out on qualifying. However, we look forward to the next rounds of qualification matches next year. So we're seeing significant exposure to many of our young people in the different sporting disciplines. Congrats as well to Standard 4 pupil of Scarborough RC. This is 10-year-old Josiah Hills, who has won the following competitions in the field of tennis. Again, we're seeing tennis. The Catch National Boys Under 14 Singles, the Sub-Region 4 Under 12 Boys Doubles, and the Powerade Barbados International Junior Boys Under 12 Singles and Doubles. Again, here we have one of our very young, talented players cupping titles in Trinidad, as well as in the recently held Powerade Barbados International. And I know many of us would pass through the Shaw Park area, either in the morning time or in the evening times, and you would see the coaches there and the young people, a number of them participating and really getting in their training and so on. And you would see the outside lined with parents who all are either waiting, come to pick up, come to drop off, and that kind of thing. And it seems to me as if tennis has really taken up quite a bit of interest and momentum in Tobago, and we want to congratulate those young persons who are really committed to the cause. And even more so, I want us to really congratulate those coaches and parents who continue to sacrifice daily. I dare say that there is no payment that can be put together that we can actually give off for the kind of sacrifice and commitment that we've seen. I even mentioned it last week when we saw the Ball Blasters return to Tobago, and a number of parents, it was like pandemonium down at the airport when those young guys came through the terminal. So we really want to say hats off to coaches and parents for that sacrifice and what we call a labor of love as you continue to support your children in their endeavors. We want to highlight as well the Goodwood Secondary School as they launched their Windmill Ruin project. Goodwood Secondary School launched their Goodwood Windmill Ruin experience at the Goodwood Secondary School, and this was launched by the Tourism Youth Club yesterday. You know, this is a project that I believe would have begun a number of years ago, and I would have seen the progress of it daily. Every time you pass, you see something added to that particular project. And yesterday, they actually launched this project. And I trust that in the near future, we're going to get someone to come in to really explain to Tobago what was the genesis of that particular project. And now that it is launched, what is the tourism impact that we can see? If you're passing on your way, as you're passing the Goodwood School, if you look heading east, if you're heading east and you look to your left, you're going to see that structure there, and feel free to always stop and come out and ask so that a talk could be given and some explanations. But definitely it's going to be a landmark that tourists can also stop at and have a bit of history explained to them along the way. So congratulations to the Goodwood Secondary School and that. We want to say also happy 75th anniversary to the Tobago Library Service under the Division of Education, Research and Technology. The Library Service turns 75. That is 75 years of providing Tobago with literacy. And I really want to encourage us. I mean, though we have the advent of internet and social media platforms and so on, everything is virtual, there is still a place for books and pages. And I can add this in, the library itself has been fully digitized and computerized, and there are so many services that are available at the library online where you don't even have to visit, but you can log on to their website, log on to their platform, go through books, identify books that you're interested in, search for books and so on. And we really want to congratulate the library service for the 75 years that they have been serving Tobago on matters of literacy, and we continue to encourage them to do what they are doing as they continue to increase and impact the education level and the literacy level on the island. At this time, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to get a bit more information. As we know, we would have just completed our Jazz Weekend. We're going to have some highlights from that as well. So stay logged on, stay locked on, share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
Sign up, save, and win every day with Digicel Plus. You could win a tablet or a TV every single day. Just sign up for Digicel Plus and like yourself. Visit digiceltt.com or a Digicel store to sign up now. Promotion ends May 19th and is approved by the NLCB.
morning. Put a smile on your October will never be better. With Tobago, carnival fever. Book your passage and come on over.
Welcome to Limache Parfait Day Spa, your urban oasis and wellness center. Our services includes massages, treatments, facials, pedicures, weight management, detox programs, and much more. Call us today at 624-1452 or 720-7474. Trinidad locations and Bonacore, Tobago at 273-7772. Let us treat you like the VIP you are.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tapago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tapago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tapago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tapago's at your service.
If you see or know about a crime, report a crime safely and anonymously. Call 800-TIPS. Help stop crime. You can play your part safely and anonymously. Report a crime. Earn a reward. Call 800-TIPS. Help stop crime. Be a hero, champion, fearless citizen. Be a crime stopper safely and anonymously. Call 800-TIPS. Help stop crime.
The best place to stay in Tobago is at Thorns Place with rates starting as low as 200 TT. Call or WhatsApp 745-7306 or 682-8676. We are located uptown Scarborough, 5 minutes away from the port. Remember, at Thorns Place, our aim is to make your stay safe and affordable.
I'm Roxanne Hepburn, the Managing Director of Limache Parfait Day Spa. And now guess what? We're in Tobago and we are so excited to serve Tobago. Limache Parfait Day Spa Tobago will be open to the public from Monday the 5th. Some of the services that you can access would be infrared body steam, spa parties, body treatments, massages, pedicures, manicures, waxing, carviation, radio, and lipo slimming and cellulite wrap treatment. We are located at number 1 Main Road, Barrington's Court, Bonacore Village.
Mamai Lakai Home Services. We specialize in cleaning of carpets and rugs, mattresses, living room and dining room sets, vehicle detailing, cleaning and sanitizing of homes and commercial spaces. We also do landscaping and tree cutting, pressure and power washing, floor care, fumigating and air purifying. You can also call us for professional painting services, babysitting and adult sitting. Call us now 333-4430 at Mamai Lakai Home Services. We take cleaning to another level.
And folks, we're back at the Minority Report. And as I indicated as we were leaving a short while ago for the break, we're just out of the Jazz Weekend, and we really want to highlight and say congratulations to the Tobago standouts at the festival, and two performances in particular that I know many persons have been speaking about were the performances by the three Panis, Kirsch, Ramsey and they, as well as Sharon Phillips delivering a scorching performance. And I know the director has a clip loaded, so I'll just have him run two short clips of those, and then we get into this evening's discussions. Yes, quite a stirring performance there coming from Sharon Phillips, and I mean a very joyful and playful performance as well coming in from our three quote-unquote tenors, as it were. Other Tobago artists would have really headlined and did their thing. We saw Shaquille Toy Story as well making quite an impact on Sunday. This evening we want to head into a bit of further discussions, and let me introduce in studio with me, I have to my immediate right the Minority Leader, Assemblyman Kelvon Morris. Always busy, always moving from one place to the other. I swear that this gentleman has a clone, but he is with us with us tonight. Welcome to the show.
Let me say good night to you, Marlon. Good night to you, Brother Lawrence Islop, Senator Lawrence Islop, and to you all loyal viewers locked on and viewing. Pleasant good night.
And as indicated by the Minority Leader, we have back with us, I have to say, Senator Lawrence Islop. Always a pleasure to have you, sir.
Night, Marlon. Kelvon, good night. Or good evening, gentlemen. And good evening to Tobago and wider listening public wherever you are. It's a pleasure to be here as well.
So getting right into it, I know, Senator, you are fresh off the plane from a diplomatic mission that you would have attended to matters pertaining to Trinidad and Tobago in terms of representation. And what was key as well is that, based on our information, you led that diplomatic mission.
You call it a diplomatic mission?
It's a diplomatic mission. So could you just share with us a bit of what you were doing?
Yeah, so as always, it's a pleasure to serve. Humbled by the opportunities given to serve and to represent not only the country, but to represent our great party. This time around, it was a party event or a party trip that we went on. We were hosted by the CPC, which is the ruling party in the People's Republic of China. They hosted 6 delegations from CARICOM. So we had Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Grenada, Jamaica, Bahamas. I don't think I left out anybody, if that is 6. So it was indeed, the delegations were delegations of 4. It was indeed a eye-opening, rewarding trip that we were exposed to. All of the delegations expressed their gratitude to the CPC, the ruling party of China, for the privilege to be there. We attended several lectures throughout the 10 days that we were there, as well as a number of site visits to primarily agricultural establishments in Beijing, Yunnan, and Guangzhou. So it was a 10-day trip. I could tell you that the journey to and from China was very taxing, but the what we were able to be a part of, and the experiences that we were able to be a part of, the industries that we were able to see in operation, has really opened my mind a little more to greater possibilities, not only for Trinidad and Tobago, not only for the PNM, but for Tobago and for the nation by extension. And so it was truly rewarding. All of the delegations from CARICOM would have spoken very highly of the initiative of the trip that was given to us by CPC. And it is a way of forging greater partnerships, not only across the oceans, but right here in the CARICOM. And I think everybody who, if I could speak for my colleagues, because I had the privilege of leading the delegation from the PNM to China, a delegation of 4. So my colleagues in Trinidad and the colleagues as well throughout the CARICOM region spoke about greater partnerships, and that's why this morning on the morning show I was able to speak to partnerships more than separations. And so my CARICOM colleagues spoke to forging greater partnerships, not only at a party level, because I want to make this absolutely clear that it was not a country delegation. It was a party delegation. The ruling party of the People's Republic of China would have foot the entire bill for that. So persons have to understand that it was not taxpayers' money that was used in that regard, but it was a host country that opened their arms to us and was there to share with us what has worked for them in China and what could work for us in this part of the world.
Wow. Interesting, very, very interesting, and we know definitely that we're going to see the fruit of that exposure, not only at a national level, but even right here in Tobago, a wealth of experience being built up there.
Yeah, but not only was it a party thing. Even though you go out as party, your ultimate umbrella is the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and so we were able to represent our country well. I smile at one of the things that we were able to do. I wish I had sent you some of the pics that we had.
Yes.
But we were able to plant a small national flag on one of the high points of the Great Wall of China.
Wow. What? Okay. Very interesting.
I'll try and send some pictures to you while here, and then maybe at the end of the show
you can run them through.
You could run them so that the viewers could see. But it was truly an awesome experience, a humbling experience, a learning experience. Because sometimes I think people feel that when we go out on these trips is all about fun and liming and so on. Yeah, you have the opportunity to socialize.
In terms of China, what was like one of your or couple of key real takeaways in terms of perhaps misconceptions or that kind of thing? What was your key takeaways in terms of China?
China is a beautiful country, man. China is modern. China has outpaced a number of developed countries around the world in terms of its infrastructure development, in terms of the modern layout of its cities and the ability for the movement of mass pop, because you're talking about 1.4 billion people.
Yeah.
You're talking about 50-something million people alone in Beijing.
Wow.
8 million cars on the road in Beijing alone. And to see a city...
And it's and traffic is moving and all
yeah,
that?
they have traffic jams because... so let's not...
Imagine.
Yeah, traffic jams, they aren't unique to Trinidad and Tobago and places like Elia and stuff. They have traffic jams, but there is a level of... one of the things that struck me about that place is the level of order, the level of respect. The city is
You were
clean.
saying something about crime as well. I remember in
Yeah,
our discussion you were saying about the...
Yeah, they've told us that crime is almost at 0%. That was coming from
Talking our place.
Yeah, that was
1.4
coming
billion.
from our
1.4
ambassador.
billion
Yeah, you're talking
people.
about 1.4 billion people.
And they have crime almost
at
0%.
because our ambassador says she as an official could come out of her residence and walk the streets of Beijing at any hour, any night.
Wow.
And she doesn't feel... Now, the city is extremely watched. I think it's the most watched city in the world with surveillance cameras. And so they monitor everything. And so there is a level of order that I've never seen. There's a level of respect. Respect for people, for each other, and also for persons who visit.
And I remember as well, you talked about even the collaboration between parties. So CPC is the major party, but even the minority parties are given
they have about eight smaller parties in China. CPC is the largest because CPC was at the founding of modern China. Chairman Mao and these guys, and so, but they are able to collaborate with the minor parties. Now, people may say, some people may have China is communist and all of that. China's system work for them. If the system works for China, the system, and we've seen the fruits of the system working for China. So that's they call it socialism with Chinese characteristics. It's a beautiful way to put it, and we've seen, and so some of the things that really struck me, that we went to a couple agricultural sites, no pesticides.
Really?
Yeah, they've taken the bugs, destroying bugs, to a different level. They've studied it down to a science. And so in their tobacco fields, they don't use, in this particular area, they don't use any form of chemicals for pest control. They actually use other pests to control the pests. So and are we talking about at a commercial level?
Wow.
You go to a blueberry field. The blueberry field is I would say as big as half of Tobago. And in that field, they use no pesticides. It's all organic fertilizers, organic pesticides, and they're able to create a product, a blueberry juice and a blueberry wine out of that for sale that sustains that particular community that deals with. And so the model that I saw for the agriculture in the rural areas in Yunnan was one where the state was able to build out facilities, basically build over a village for the residents of the village, in terms of the infrastructure for housing and so on. Allow them to still farm the land, but assist them with ramping up their production. So their farming is able to sustain the village. And so it's that, and then they have a mixture of tourism where they built out a nice guest house, really rustic but modern. Yeah, and so it was truly an eye-opening experience because you got to see the urban life as well as the rural life. And people may say to you, well, they haven't shown you real China, but it's just a reality. Even when people come to Trinidad and Tobago,
every society
you promote what are the benefits, and China has made it their duty to stick to their goals. Because one of the things that struck me is that one of our hosts said to us that since modern China, they have been able to hit all the goals that they've set for China, except their GDP during COVID. So everything that they've set, every goal that they have set, they have been able to achieve it.
Proper planning.
Proper planning.
And I remember in terms of technology, you're saying they have reached as far as having the AI and all the robotics.
Yeah. It was just funny to be in the hotel on the last night and see this. We went to Guangzhou for the last day. So we were at this hotel and I saw this piece of equipment moving up and down the floor. So I know about cleaning robots. So I actually thought it was a cleaning robot, and but then I realized that it wasn't moving in a particular pattern. It was going all over. It would come out from behind, come around a wall, and I'm like, what is going on? When we finally asked about it, the guy told us that the robot delivers documents from office to office, from floor to floor. The robot actually goes into the elevator, selects the floor that it... Now it looks like a big canister. It looks like a big canister. It doesn't look like a human being. It looks like
R2D2.
Yeah, a kind of R2D2 kind of Star Wars thing. So you'd look at it moving on the floor and you wouldn't pay any attention to it. And it actually goes into the elevator, selects the floor that it wants to go on, and goes up, collects the document, comes back down, delivers it, and vice versa. And it was just... I sat there and I was like, yeah, this is what we talking about next level, AI and robotics and so on.
So this thing is really all the way out there.
And we have to understand even the level of infrastructure development that's taking place in China is phenomenal. China is still rated as a developing nation. It is, I think, is the #1 developing nation in the world. So they have not yet, because between them and India, they have 1/3 of the world's poverty. They have 1/3 of the population and 1/3 of the poverty. And so one of the targets that they've set is to basically wipe out, eradicate poverty in China. And we know that there's a possibility we may not be able to do it, but they are creating the avenue to at least get close to it. So they're basically urbanizing some of the rural areas. And when I say urbanizing, they're not just moving in and building big buildings. They're actually taking the residents out of the poverty-stricken lifestyle, erecting adequate housing for them. So you stay within your same community, but they're seeking to upgrade how you live, lights, water,
trade and
all the
commerce
necessary infrastructure. Make sure that your community is self-sustainable, so that you could. So the state sets you on a path, so that you could be self-sustainable. Yeah.
That is an awesome experience.
Yeah, so we'll send some pictures to the producers.
Yes,
so we
we definitely will.
At the end of it, yeah?
Yes. Right, so coming out of that, I know many persons have been locked on because so much has been happening in Tobago, and you know, these are interesting times. You know, but one of the things that we really want to take the opportunity tonight to highlight is something that we saw develop from last Thursday, when the minority leader would have made quite a stirring call in the House. And even as recently as this evening on my way here, someone called me and they said, listen, when the minority leader said, call the elections and challenge the system and challenge it, he said, I felt ignited, like I could rise. And, you know, just that very statement, I think, electrified not just Tobago, but Trinidad and Tobago. And we saw the evidence of it when on Sunday evening, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley issued a press release where he provided some advice and recommendations for the present THA administration. And a minority leader, this is where I want to bring you into the conversation. You are the one that started this. It was like an Olympic torch that was lit last Thursday. Share with us a bit of that coming forward, coming out of that sitting and how we progressed.
Well, you know, it was quite interesting, the sitting. And when I began my presentation, of course, I would have addressed a situation that took place with respect to how the sitting and the information was communicated and administered. And in addressing that, you know, what I found coming out of the interactions both with myself, presiding officer, and the chief secretary, it came across like the chief secretary was actually trying to, you know, control the presiding officer. And so I had to ask him and defend. I had to step in and defend the presiding officer to the point that I had to remind him that the last time I checked, there was only one presiding officer, because in the House, don't know if a lot of persons know this, but in the Assembly legislature and even in the Parliament, everyone is seen basically as equals. You're a member and you must subscribe to the standing orders of the House. So it matters not whether you're Prime Minister at the executive level or Chief Secretary at the executive level. In the House, you are a member, and really and truly the two key members on each bench is really the leader of the Assembly and the minority leader. Those are the two key members on each side.
Either side.
And on either side. And in the case of the THA, because we are horseshoe, the two key members in terms of the majority in the House is the leader of Assembly business, and in terms of on the minority side, the minority leader. So with that interaction, the chief secretary then made a real weird comment. Because I know if you listen to the audio, it wasn't picked up fully. So a lot of people perhaps was wondering where the whole back and forth came from.
Yeah.
And it was the fact that he's still the chief secretary. Which was a very weird comment. And I think that in itself, as we go forward in the discussion, would definitely have people thinking at this point in time, where is all this arrogance coming from? Because to have to remind in the House where you're really a member, you reminding your colleagues that you're still the chief secretary,
presiding officer,
and reminding the presiding officer after she would have ruled that you are still the chief secretary. What is that about? You know, and even went further to make a sort of, I don't know if he sees something that I don't know, but it was very unnecessary, the comment as well. Which I probably wouldn't even go into, but it was a weird comment. And that moved me instantaneously to say, well, call. And, you know, I paused a bit because the comment came after I started the well call, the second comment. And instantaneously, you know, the words, well, if you're big and you're bad, you know, if you're near man.
If you're near man.
If you're near man. Well, call the elections. Call it now. Because my point is, if you're so confident that you are the chief secretary, you will continue to be the chief secretary, why hide behind a loophole in the law? Why not allow the people who would have put you there in the first place? And if you're saying you're about the people and you're about ground up and respecting democracy and all that, why not allow the people to have their say, understanding that you're really entering a new dimension of the existence of this administration? Because we know they moved from PDP, they were elected PDP. People must remember that as well.
Yeah.
It's a conversation person doesn't want to have. But these members were elected PDP before we even got into the House. Because I hear a lot of people saying, well, the THA doesn't recognize parties.
Yeah.
But before we even got to the point of identifying a majority, the majority came from the fact that EBC would have recognized the party that had the majority.
Yeah.
You understand?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you had to be the majority before you could even come to the House to identify yourself an elector.
As an assembly.
Exactly. So now that you know, and then you started the whole conversation about independence and that thing. And now you're now looking to transition again into another type of government within the THA, within this period. And it is on that background I felt it important to make the call on behalf of Tobagonians. Because and the call is not a Kelvon call, but the call is a call that I get, is a conversation that I'm greeted with wherever I go. You know, them people can't stay here. You know, they have to. You know, they have to go back to the poll. When they're going back to the, those are the real conversations on the ground.
Yeah.
And it is incumbent upon me, as minority leader, as a representative of the people of Tobago, to at least let the Chief Secretary know the call is real. Yeah. It is up to him. I can't tell him what to do. It is up to him to do his reflection, do his introspection, understand what is the honorable thing to do, what is the ethical thing to do, what is the democratic thing to do, and eventually he would have to make that decision.
Yeah, because and minority leader is correct, because that's even, because every time I may stop at a garage, stop here, stop there, people are asking you, explain this to me. How could these people still be in governance if they change in parties and they change, and I have to take and I have to take the time and explain that the law allows for it. The law is silent on it. So it is something that is being I wouldn't say exploited, because if it is allowed, then okay. But I think from the perspective of if it was the other way around, because I always say, if you don't like something for yourself, then you shouldn't like it for your neighbor.
Because let us also back up a bit. And if you remember, during the 6-6, the law actually allowed for the incumbent to remain there for as long. They could have been there for 4 years, really and truly, until the House would have dissolved itself. And of course,
and the PDP at that time was calling for us to go back to the polls as well.
Which was a
reasonable call.
Yeah. It was,
and so
and it happened.
Exactly, because a mechanism.
That is it.
That's right. The mechanism had to be created.
People made their decision at the end of it.
Yeah. But let the people have their say.
Yeah.
Now, minority leader, and coming out of that, now we saw a number of conversations start, and I think Tobago went off in a whirlwind. But what was even more impactful is that on Sunday, and I'll ask the director to cue up that release. We could put it up on the screen. We saw a release coming out of the office of the Prime Minister where Dr. Rowley now joined the conversation. And you mentioned something just a while back when you spoke of the 6-6 scenario. And it's important to note and that all of Tobago understands that even in that setting, Dr. Rowley's voice was present. And again, I don't know if you want to touch on it a bit, and then we go into the scenario, the circumstances under which the release came, so that we can, because there's a lot of misinformation circling.
But before Kelvin minority leader even jumps in, somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't hear at that time in the 6-6.
Correct.
I didn't hear then Assemblyman Farley Augustine saying to the Prime Minister, mind your business.
They were calling
exactly.
to intervene.
So
they were calling for it.
Right. So So it's convenient to tell the Prime Minister to stay out of Tobago's business when it can affect you. But so we talk about hypocrisy, and I just always say when I preach it, I'm a hypocrite, right? I don't shy away from the fact that I'm a sinner, right? But you have to first recognize your sin. And so if you were calling for the Prime Minister to get involved when it was the 6-6, if you were calling for central government to get involved, you're calling for the Parliament to get involved when it was 6-6, then why should you say to the Prime Minister no, when clearly there is an issue of governance, an issue of governance, that he should remain silent? And, it's just disingenuous, because I said this morning that you can't. At the end of the day, Dr. Rowley is the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago.
Exactly.
And he when he made the statement about staying out of Tobago's business, it was in the day-to-day administration of the island.
Yes.
I don't think any Prime Minister can see what is taking place, or any Prime Minister would have seen what is taking place in Tobago and remain silent. And the last thing I want to say is that people are now trying to juxtapose that against when Mr. London said to Mrs. Bissessa at the time, no Prime Minister can tell me force me to call an election. And those circumstances were completely different, because the PNM at that time didn't change clothes. The PNM at that time didn't collapse. Didn't go in under one ticket and then become independent and then form another party while still in power and want to foist that party upon the people. The PNM was still the PNM.
Yeah. From
the time it won the election to the time that the Prime Minister at the time tried to get Mr. London to call an election. So it's two different scenarios. And we can't cherry pick. Let's not cherry pick. Let's deal with the stuff head on.
You're so correct, Senator. And, the first point is the Prime Minister's approach to this issue has been consistent with the Prime Minister's approach to all governance issues and governance crisis. During the 6-6, he allowed a period of reflection. And then, in fact, he then made a statement as the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago with respect to that arrangement. He indicated that it was an arrangement that he was comfortable with, having a stay-over administration, carry on the business of governance. He was very clear, and that was a PNM administration. He could have sat back and said, okay, it's PNM.
Let them stay.
Let them stay. He was clear that was not a proper process, and then he started to have conversations as to how best do we want to deal with this. I was part of that 6-6, so I remember when we were all invited as assemblymen to that meeting down at Magdalena, and the Prime Minister was clear. He outlined the various options available, and at that time, the PDP would have been the one who came up with this whole, the suggestion that was Mr. Duke at the time as the leader of the PDP of power sharing. When that was explored and failed, then the Prime Minister tried to utilize the option of the autonomy bill, because that would have automatically also triggered an election if that was passed. When that also was stalled in the Parliament, then the last option, which was to make the amendments to dissolve the House, that was in fact done, and we were able to go back to the people of Tobago. The people of Tobago would have chosen an administration. And within a year, that has collapsed. That is different.
Several times.
That is different from there being issues of performance. This is not a performance crisis. I mean, they have their performance challenges, but nobody in that situation can call. We may make the political call, but it's not a call that has any real merit. This call is based on a governance crisis, where you now have a situation where some people calling themselves independents are now trying to form a new party, a party that no one gave a mandate to, a party that no one can hold accountable to anything, because they did not promise anything. They didn't come before the people. And in any real society, in any real democracy, this arrangement would not and cannot stand. And if we are serious about democracy, it therefore dictates that we collectively as an island say to this administration, this arrangement is improper, it is undemocratic, and is not something we are comfortable with you all carrying on. You all need to come back to us. And the point is, it ultimately redounds to the people to choose one way or the other.
Exactly.
You are saying that you have done so well within the last 18 months. And if you have done so well, then therefore you should have absolutely no problem going back to the people of Tobago and allowing them to validate your existence, to validate your and give you a mandate, in fact, as a new party. And that's why I have always said, and PNM have said, we have no challenge. We have absolutely no challenge with anybody forming a party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we know the PNM,
the law allows
for that. But what we are saying, once you do that, once you form your party, you have an you have an ethical and moral obligation to go back to the people and let the people decide one way or the other if they want you, based on what you are putting forward, to continue to govern their affairs. So this call is no way similar to the call Mrs. Prasad Bisesa was making during the time. This call is I'm seeing people also saying, why doesn't the Prime Minister call the election in Trinidad? That is a whole different call as well, because there's no constitutional crisis within Trinidad.
Exactly.
And the government of Trinidad and Tobago, but there is a constitutional crisis in a real sense within Tobago at this time, because what you have is people holding on to office that would have relinquished their mandate. They really, in a real sense, they gave up their mandate when they moved away from the party to which they went to the people too. So they gave up their mandate, and the rightful thing now is to go back to the people to get back that mandate that the people of Tobago gave them in the first place.
Because you remember the campaign was about Spartan.
Yeah.
The campaign wasn't about individuals, you know. The campaign was about a group of people under a banner.
Yeah.
And so when you trying to move this goalpost and saying that you voted for a candidate, fine, yes, you did, but you voted for a candidate
who belonged to a party,
who belonged to an entity that you identified with. Because I want this to be clear, that a lot of people did not identify with the individual, you know.
Exactly.
The electorate did not identify. The only person that the electorate could have said that they identified with, individual. If you want to make that argument, then you could say identified with the President Chief Secretary. Right?
Yeah.
Because the campaign strategy was a race between Tracy and Val. Right? So if you want to talk about you identifying with an individual, then it was the person at the quote-unquote at the head of the ticket. But in all reality, that you identified with an organization.
And let's be real, because we are talking, I have persons who said to me and said to others that they didn't even look at the candidate on the ballot. They just went in, they looked for the PDP symbol and they stamped PDP. There's people who don't even know who the candidate, and that is a real thing.
Yeah.
So to pretend that is an individual kind of arrangement. It is, yes, an individual may come with some support, but at the end of the day, the party carries the weight of the support.
Exactly.
In a real sense. And if there's arrangements for persons, I want people to understand this as well. The EBC, the Election and Boundaries Commission, and the THE Act allows for individuals to run during the elections as independents.
We've seen it
So
here.
if they really wanted to be independents in the truest sense, and they're still free to be independents, they can come back to the people again and run as independents and let us test the theory that they will vote it in as independents if they want that as well. They're free to test that theory.
So guys, I mean, we just have about 5 or 6 minutes again. I know that the two conversations that we've seen since the release really hinged on the legality of the PM being able to make his recommendations. But something that I also want to address before we leave is the disrespect that we saw coming out from this present Chief Secretary.
And one of the things, because I found as a Tobagonian first, the op-ed of which is the Prime Minister's personal opinion. He didn't. It's not an instruction, as some people. It was very reasoned. It was very fair, and it was because it came from a place of outlining. He didn't just
why he got
to here. He was able
chronological.
Exactly. Very reasoned, and you know what I saw was a clear attempt to shoot the messenger while ignoring the message. Few people spoke to the content of the message.
Document.
If you check it out,
but they couldn't.
it is about the messenger and trying in different ways, whether he has the legislative authority, which that is debunked because he is the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and if he didn't have the authority to function in Tobago, then there would be not even an office of the Prime Minister that has responsibility for Tobago affairs. That has always been part of the function of the Prime Minister, of the office of the Prime Minister. So to say that, so we can then transition into, I know what you want in terms of the response.
Yes.
I
saw you featured on the so take lead.
The Chief Secretary could tell me get off his post all he wants.
But it's a manner.
At the end of the day, no, he could tell.
Exactly,
he could
very
tell
disrespectful.
He could tell me get off his post. The reality is, at the end of the day, his comment, his headline was disrespectful. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to withdraw the statement. The Chief Secretary was disrespectful to say to the Prime Minister, or even to say period, stay out of Tobago damn business. It was disrespectful. And people may want to say, well, look at that. Well, just mind your damn business. People could say that the Prime Minister is disrespectful. And you see, there again, or has been disrespectful in the past. And there again, we go dealing with personalities.
Yeah.
All right? There we go again dealing with personalities. At the end of the day, your statement was disrespectful. You don't justify wrong by pointing out another wrong. If in other regards you find the PM was disrespectful, fine. But I found that you were disrespectful by your comment, and I'm going to stand by it.
Yeah.
And you could tell me get off your post all you want, and that I was being a hypocrite. Fine, I'll take that. But at the end of the day, you were disrespectful by saying what you said to the Prime Minister.
But I know as well, there are persons, Tobagonians, who basically said they felt ashamed.
Yeah,
of course.
Many people said that.
Remember, even if you have to respect the office that you know, and for the tone of the Prime Minister's response to be meted out with such a disrespectful
animosity and
hateful, I think as well. A hateful statement like that was quite, I really thought, I said, no, somebody hacked the chief sex.
Yeah, but when I saw it, I was shocked.
I honestly, because I couldn't believe it. I thought it was some, and then I went down and I recognized that he was there responding and
to
that kind
persons,
of,
yeah. And I mean, this is by no way something new, because we can also highlight, remember a couple of months back, one of his charges when Secretary Trevor James went down to Trinidad, and the Prime Minister walked into the lobby, everybody stood, and he refused to stand. And so we understand where this is coming from. We understand that this administration continues to support lawlessness and disrespect.
But going back to just look how he badged out of the house. There are
on
protocols
Thursday
in how you enter and how you leave the house. And he just, it was there for plain
grab up
sight,
his
how he
stuff
just
and
badged out. No acknowledgement of the presiding officer, nothing.
And what was worse, there was no, even afterwards when all of Tobago saw, he still tried to justify it by saying, well, I had said before that I would have left.
It doesn't matter if you said before. There are precedents set. There are guidelines as to how, one, you address the chair, how you...
Even how you dress.
Yeah.
How dress code.
That's a different story. But listen, I'm at the point where, fine, I've accepted to come into public life. I've accepted the fact that people are going to come at me who don't even know me. And they're going to come at me just because I'm a PNM. And even people who know me and who I grew up with are coming at me.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that, because I chose to get into public life, and I chose to speak out. And the reality is, we are not, and I'm not even talking about from a PNM perspective. I had a conversation yesterday with a senior public servant, and I'm going to leave the person
anonymous. Yeah.
But what is happening in the Assembly Legislature and in the governance of Tobago is not looking good. And so when the Prime Minister says that if you are to be taken seriously, now people are thinking that it is a threat. Prime Minister does not need to threaten the THA. What does that benefit the Prime Minister? He's guided by law as to how you treat the THA in terms of its financing. And so the financing for the THA will continue to come. And I hear this narrative, being bandied about that Trinidad is stifling Tobago with money, which is nonsense.
That's absolutely untrue.
They need to speak to the fact that outside of the budgetary allocation, that the THA received an additional $100 million to contractors.
Exactly.
They need to speak that.
Just upon request.
And if they speak that, and they need to say that they requested it.
Yeah.
And the request was accepted. That's what they need to say. So when they start to talk about Tobago being suffered for finances, they need it.
Foolish.
They're being disingenuous. And the reality is,
they're lying. They're telling lies.
Not only in the sphere of governance between Trinidad and Tobago, but when you talk about people just observing what is going on, people in senior position. So the Prime Minister says, if you want to be taken seriously, if people who are looking on,
in terms of investors,
and this is not just this is not just Trinidad. You are seeking to gain investment from foreign investors, and if you can't manage 60,000 people, if you can't manage your emotions and manage 60,000 people, and what? How much billion dollars a year?
2.4 billion.
2.4. If you can't manage that, who's going to take you seriously to want to do business with you?
Exactly.
Because of this morning, I said, even the business community is not going to take you seriously. So many of the supporters have lost the plot when it comes to what the Prime Minister is saying. This goes beyond central government taking you seriously. This is external people,
regional, international
people taking you seriously. If this is how you are behaving.
You're so correct, Lawrence. And the point as well, in terms of the reaction to what the Prime Minister said and why it is of great concern to me, is because at the end of the day, even the law also prescribes how, the Prime Minister and the Chief Secretary relates. And it should be one, it fosters one of collaboration.
That's right.
And what you're seeing is a clear strategy now to create division.
Yes.
The approach, when you look at the posture of this current assembly, it is one where they are deliberately looking to pick a fight.
Yeah.
Unnecessarily.
When we should be at a period where we are looking to collaborate for the benefit, not self-serving, but for the benefit of the average Tobagonian. That should be the focus of this administration at this time.
Yeah.
How do we collaborate? So you spoke about that 100 million that they got.
That they requested
what other opportunities are there for us to collaborate? We had the marina, we saw how they fight, and up to now our marina can't start. The government was willing to assist the THA in financing a marina. You fight, you lose that. The government is looking to treat with the port, assist you in developing the port of Scarborough, because you had to, in terms of your cruise ship, and they're saying that you need to extend the jetty and all that, but you are looking to fight. You are seeing other opportunities where the government is looking actively, and that's why it hurts my heart when I see people who ought to know better going on programs and saying the Prime Minister doesn't like Tobago and the Prime Minister has done nothing for Tobago. Absolute untrue. You look at this Prime Minister would have reached a situation where we needed police stations. The previous central government ignored Tobago.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister built one in Roxborough. He built one at Sherfan.
Yeah.
Those are the Prime Minister.
But I mean, the government to which the Prime Minister leads built Roxborough, Sherfan. Yeah. The government which his Prime Minister leads built the fire station. Remember that Roxborough fire station was ignored and left abandoned for so long? Roxborough.
And then People's Partnership that they love.
Then in terms of this Prime Minister ensure the people of the East have their own modern hospital.
Yeah.
This Prime Minister also is building a first-class, world-class airport for Tobago. And what about this Prime Minister also understood the challenges with our tourism sector and was on the verge of bringing a world-class, 5-star branded
hotel,
all-inclusive resort.
Yeah.
Just recently I saw St. Vincent
that's right.
about the beaches brand that and we were getting not just the sandals, but we were getting both sandals
and beaches.
And
over 1,000 rooms.
Over 1,000 rooms.
And bear this in mind. Bear this in mind, my leader, that all of this is additional capital expenditure on top of what is given.
Allocated.
So you have your allocation for you to manage.
Yes.
And the only person you account to is the Auditor General. On top of that, the central government, through its different agencies and ministries, is spending considerable additional funding. And we are saying that PNM don't like Tobago and Dr. Rowley don't like
Tobago. And Lawrence, the final point, because I said at the end of the day, we are here as gatekeepers on behalf of the people to serve the people. When you fight, as the saying say, when elephants fight, the grass gets. Because when you deny these opportunities, it means that the opportunity for employment goes. The opportunity for commerce goes.
Yes.
The opportunity for domestic tourism goes.
Everything is negatively
The opportunity for agricultural expansion and agricultural activity
trading,
goes.
Everything.
The opportunity for our hoteliers and those persons into tours or restaurateurs. Because when you have development and you have people either coming to work and money is flowing, people lie more, they spend more, the groceries, the bars,
Yeah.
And this is this
Trickle
is
down
why
effect,
Tobago
man.
is in such a comatose at this time. When you look at Tobago at its current existence, the place is at an absolute standstill.
Stand still.
Yeah.
And I saw something very curious over the weekend where a gentleman apparently went to Jamaica and saw the activities in Jamaica. And then he did his research. He's saying Jamaica's tourism post-COVID has grown from 2022 to 2023. And he asked the question, what is happening to Tobago? You know
Well, we had the opportunity and we allowed it to just...
You know what a senior member of this current assembly came and said?
I saw it. They want to blame Cal.
They are blaming Cal's
Caribbean Airlines.
domestic air bridge. We know Cal has challenges which we all face as Tobago, and we demand that Cal ought to do better on the air bridge when it comes to transporting people between Tobago and Trinidad, Trinidad and Tobago. But how could you blame Cal for your challenges at the level of international arrivals?
No, but even in addition to that, Kelvin, marketing. Cal is not in the business of marketing a destination.
Exactly.
Cal is in the business of moving people.
Exactly.
So if you have a proper marketing strategy in place, and you say to Cal, this is
what we have.
This is what we have done to bring 100,000 visitors from the North American market.
We need your support.
And you put that on the table. I am almost sure Cal, as an entity that seeks to make a profit, is going to find the flights to bring those 100,000 people.
And the question is, because the secretary should have told us what is happening with the direct flight out of New York. Is it that they are pulling it and they want another flight and Cal isn't giving them? No, because those are the... So I was flabbergasted when I saw the response. And people actually lapped it up. And I'm saying, but where is the thought process that a senior person could make that kind of decision?
They operated
where everywhere else in the Caribbean, you're seeing an increase in international arrivals. You're seeing
St. Vincent.
And we are probably one of the only islands where there's no growth, where we have not even come at least 80 to 90% close to where we were in 2019.
No, but you see, I could understand from the perspective that flights, signing contracts, and you will have a more intimate knowledge of that. But signing contracts for flight arrival takes some time.
It's a cycle.
But the reality for me is that you have not said to the population, what is your strategy to do that? You've gone to 2 trade markets and you've come back and you have not said what discussions have started. What discussions are in its infancy with regards to a particular airline. You don't even have to give the airline name. You could just say that we are in initial discussions with particular airlines out of particular destinations to bring people to the island. But we have no clear...
But as you rightfully said, you have to have a strategy.
Yeah.
And the question is, what is their strategy? As far as I understand it, I asked that question in the House. And I was told by the secretary at the time, she was awaiting the technocrats. That was at least a year and 2 months ago. A year and 2 months later, they are still waiting for this strategy to come.
They're coming on.
And on top of that, one of the things about these WTM and ITB and these trade shows, these travel shows, is that you really need to do your work before you even get to the show.
Correct.
So the show is just a cement.
So you
have to sign off.
If you don't do your work prior, the preparation is really more important than you actually being there, because it's about you engaging the stakeholders, the tour operators, the various travel the airlines, and that kind of thing. So when you go there, you are really going there to sign off on deals. Yeah. You're not going there to look and that is a difference. So when you see the chief secretary jetting off, he believes that his presence there would somehow make somebody or some airline decide to come to Tobago. It doesn't
Talk them
happen like
into it.
that.
But before I know.
Yeah, we're being
wants to wrap up.
queued so that we could wrap up.
But I want to know the big announcement that the Chief Secretary made at World Travel Market about the new hotel,
Yes.
Kilgwin. What's the status of that? Because we are in the month of March.
Yes.
In March? Is
No,
March?
we passed
April,
May,
sorry.
April.
In the month of April.
Heading to, we actually into May.
And if I am not mistaken, and we could find it and verify it, but if I'm not mistaken, work was supposed to start in the month of April. Either April or May, work was supposed to start on that hotel project. But I'm hoping that we have time, my brother, to just share the clips that I sent to you. before.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll ask
I
the
won't be
director
with
just
you all-
to
I
run
won't
some of
be with
those
you all
next week.
photos from the senator's trip.
I won't be with you all next week. Yeah, that's Dr. Spence and I at our first session, our first lecture session. That was
Awesome.
day 2. I had the privilege to,
So you spoke any Chinese?
yeah, ni hao,
Mandarin.
Shishi.
Mandarin.
I had the privilege to sign off on we were having a courtesy call with the vice chairman of the People's Council, which is the parliament, which is their parliament, which was the highest government official that we would have met on that trip.
Wow.
Yeah, this is in a village in Yunnan. 2 beautiful Chinese children just were there with us, came up to me and asked for a picture. So yeah,
So you're
their mother
international.
spoke. This is a tea field.
Oh, yeah.
Tea.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is a very unique tea that was almost extinct, that cost 14,000 US per kilo. Yes.
More than oil?
We had to plan that.
No.
We had to plan
I
that.
think I said the wrong picture here, but that's the team.
Okay.
So that's Shinika Curtin, chairman of the Youth League, National Youth League. Dr. Spence represented the Women's League, and Shane Buru Singh represented Central Exec. Yeah, that's Shinika and Dr. Spence there again. And this is me at one of the points on the Great Wall.
Oh, yeah.
You can see the wall all the way in the back.
We're walking
So we
forever.
I took the easier way because, brother, trust me.
And I see you repping Tobago.
Yeah, it's
plan.
yeah.
Love it.
We exchanged. I presented a flag to the manager of that was the tea factory, the field
Okay.
Right.
where they processed that 14,000 a kilo. We were at a natural site that was made from natural formation of stone. They call it stone forest. They receive over 14,000 visitors per day at that one site.
Per day.
Per day, 10%, and only 10% of the visitors are foreigners. So China could basically sustain its tourism.
Wow.
We were at one of our roundtable meetings with one of the senior members of the international department of CPC, where they were sharing with us what were the achievements of China from its modern China to now.
Quite a lot.
So, I think I have over close to 1,000 pictures from that trip.
Well done, Senator. Well done.
Yeah.
And guys, as we know, we are always out of time, never out of words. And it is always a pleasure, and it always seems as if the discussions mount and become so much when it's time for us to close off. But we want to thank those viewers who would have stayed on with us and continue to give us the support necessary. The minority leader goes back to the House of Assembly tomorrow, the legislature, and again we are looking forward to interesting times, and I'm going to encourage folks to log on to the sit-in tomorrow. It begins at 1:30. It's back to its regularly scheduled time, and the motion is going to be presented and debated on in the House, a motion that definitely is going to impact Tobago, and I'm encouraging us all to really log into tomorrow's sit-in and so that you can gain an understanding as to some of the things that we've been saying here, especially the theme, the Great Deception. And I know the minority leader has a powerful presentation.
Just put up the motion.
The motion?
I won't speak
Director, could you just pull up the motion? so that folks can see what is actually going to be debated over tomorrow. No, the motion.
And I could probably leave. Yeah, Vanas. Yeah, Vanas is. Yeah, the Vanas.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
we'll go to that one. Okay, so they're finding it there, and while you're finding that, you can clue up the clip with Dr. James, and we're going to exit with that. The motion, I would have forwarded it, whereas the Tobago House of Assembly, it begins with that statement.
Yeah.
Interesting to note, guys, while they're actually pulling it up, yet again, we realize that everything that we speak of on the program, we see this administration often scampering to get it done.
And before you go, one of the things I want to speak to very quickly is the challenges I'm having as the area representative, where it seems there's a strategic intent to stymie, to sideline the duly elected area representative in preference of persons who are not bona fide representatives of the area. And I say that in terms of, so we're quite aware that the THA right now, they are doing some employment within divisions. And when I speak, I would have submitted a list, like all the other area representatives. And at this point, not one of those names, those persons I would have submitted. So the Division of Health employed over 400 persons as far as my information indicates. And up to now, not one person from the 40 names I would have sent, any of them have been given an opportunity. But when I liaise with persons in my area, they are saying to me that persons who are representatives of the party or the current independents are coming around to take names, and we are seeing where those persons who the names they took are being hired. And this just again speaks to the kind of wickedness, the kind of selfishness, and it is quite unfortunate because when you listen to them, they give you the impression that they're all inclusive, collaborative.
The great deception.
And at the same time, they are busy colluding to sideline area representatives that are not part of this current independent executive. Very, very unfortunate. And it's something that should be rejected by all, because Tobago belongs to all of us. The opportunities in Tobago. And what is even sad about this, in the past, there was a process where persons would register in a book, right? They call it at the division. And based as opportunities come, this would usually be administered in
so that has gone out the door.
It appears that that process has been sidelined, that has been thrown out. And the only way you can now get an opportunity is if one of the independent executives put your name on a list. As a matter of fact, I was even told by a resident, and this would blow your mind.
Yeah, I was going to tell you.
That they went down to the Division of Infrastructure to put down their name, as I just indicated, used to be the process. And they were asked, where are you from? When they told them that they were from my electoral district, the individual indicated to me that they were told, nah, we ain't taking your name. Go and let Kelvin Morris give our work. You understand what we're dealing with, right? So this is the kind of nastiness that we're dealing with right now.
So guys, we had a bit of technical challenges in terms of converting to be able to put the motion up. However, I'll just probably read through very quickly just the it resolves. Or it says, whereas the Tobago House of Assembly, hereinafter referred to as the Government of Tobago, is recognized in law, I don't know how, as the body responsible for the sustainable socio-economic development of Tobago by the formulation and implementation of policy. And whereas the geography of Tobago is enshrined in the Constitution, and whereas the culture and custom have established the people of Tobago as having their own distinct identity, and whereas the 5th schedule of Act 40 of 1996, the government of Tobago is assigned the environment as one of its administrative responsibility, and whereas the division of the government of Tobago and related agencies and entities are the bodies most appropriate to speak to and make determination on matters concerning Tobago's environment, be it resolved that the government of Tobago take full responsibility and authority for the management of all matters concerning Tobago's environment, be it resolved that the government of Tobago immediately proceed to establish the institutions, frameworks, and mechanisms necessary for the effective and successful assumption of all matters concerning the management of Tobago's environment, and be it further resolved that the government of Tobago take the action specified above to ensure the sustainable management, preservation, and protection of Tobago's environment. That is the motion that is going to be debated on tomorrow, and we are going to exit this evening with a response that came 1 day ago from Dr. Vanas James, when he would have had time to really observe and to analyze the motion. So folks, we're going to end the program with that particular clip, and we encourage you to log into the sitting tomorrow. Mr. Director.
No. The kind of party you set up informs us about the opportunity, the will to give an opportunity to the people to practice democracy in your party. But the kind of government you set up informs us about your will to give the whole of Tobago, not just your members, opportunity to practice democracy here and look after our future. And 15 months is more than enough time. That's why last year I gave them a 1 out of 10 in my grading. And 3 and 4 months later, I would still give a 1 out of 10 and more likely a 0 out of 10 for incompetence in the demonstration of your interest in what the people of Tobago really. And every one of them assert that because of the special nature of the EMA Act of 2000, which was put in place after the THA Act, let's don't forget, it supersedes the provisions except with respect to the specific matters having to do with implementation. But when it comes to policy, EMA related policy that they put in place in pursuant to their national obligations, THA and in Section 31 of that EMA Act, it says all government agencies, including the THA, subject to their policies. Of course, the THA Act says that because it says, without prejudice to Section 75(1) of the Constitution, you get to make policy and implement them on environmental matters. But to say that you're not subject to the provisions of the EMA Act is not right. And I think if Rowley is right in recording Farley that way, Farley was wrong. And then Farley's motion that they have in the House for Thursday, they have a motion coming up on Thursday, and I've read the motion. Actually, I was sent the motion to help edit it, and you know, all the people doing work in the country tend to ask me to help in one thing or another. And the what the motion asserts fundamentally is that we will take full responsibility for environmental matters in Tobago. Forget about any EMA. It doesn't mention the EMA, but it asserts that the THA will take full responsibility for environmental matters. And that just tells me you didn't bother to read the law. You surely didn't read the EMA Act when you drafted that motion. And I think that's both.
Notwithstanding the fact that although the EMA Act came in 2000 and you had Act 40 of 1996.
That gave environment.
Gave you environment a responsibility of the Tobago House of Assembly.
Correct. But remember section 25(1) of the THA Act says you have without prejudice to, which the courts read as subject to. Without prejudice to section 75(1), you get to make policy and implement the policy. That, the judges have said, means you could make policy if the central government don't bother with you and leave you free to make the policy that you want, fine. But if the central government objects or they have a policy in place that they insist you must follow, you cannot implement any other policy. That's what that section of the law really summarily means. I took it to my team of lawyers again that I work with as a development economist, and they all agree that that is what the judges have